So I decided that I wanted to explore the east bank of the Mississippi River by foot, and I'd left my house in New Orleans on Saturday about 8 in the morning, and I wanted to reach my hometown of Norco shortly after nightfall, and Norco is about 35 or so river miles up the Mississippi River. And I was determined to walk through the woods that ran along the river's bank as much as I could, but this ended up being very difficult to do, because in order to do that you have to trespass a lot of the times, because the river woods are so disjointed by heavy industrial facilities that occupy the flood side of the river's levee. And so I had often found myself traveling along the paved bicycle trail on the levee's crown, or trying to be discreet walking through private property. While still within Orleans Parish, the woods provide some really amazing landscapes that you really can't find anywhere else inside of New Orleans. Most notably, to me at least, is the natural sediment building and erosion process of the river, which has created a really complex topography of ridges and shallow channels that run lengthwise along the river. And being able to hike along these elevated areas is a real novelty for me, and I think probably for a lot of other New Orleanians who are really not familiar with that kind of elevated landscape. There's also several small tent settlements within the woods. I decided against filming them, but there was one in particular that seemed pretty lively, and had several residents gathered around a campfire preparing breakfast. And within the vicinity of this settlement, I'd found an interesting handmade trap that was set to be sprung on an unsuspecting squirrel or rabbit or what have you. I was also really mystified by this beachfront that leads to a long set of abandoned barges. And the abandoned barges are probably a familiar locale to a lot of New Orleanians, and I know that me and my friends have spent a lot of time climbing on them and drinking on them and exploring their hulls and whatnot. And the barges can be easily found by their proximity to this massive electrical transformer that's nearby. And one time I had watched in awe as two of my friends had transcended the transformer's barbed wire that's wrapped around the base of it, and they continued to climb the transformer nearly to the top. It was really impressive. And so anyway, shortly after exiting New Orleans and entering Jefferson Parish, I'd found another stretch of abandoned barges, but these barges were fascinating in a different way, because the river, I'm assuming the river during a flood stage had picked these barges up and resettled them very far inland, and then consecutive flood events had deposited sediment inside of the barges and basically turned them into these giant garden beds, and a lot of hardwood vegetation is now sprouting out of these barges, and it's like the woods have completely engulfed these barges, and it's really a beautiful sight. So anyway, I was leaving the barges, the buried barges, and I was stumbling kind of blindly through the woods. I wasn't sure exactly what direction I was going in, and I had found this BMX bike that was buried beneath some vines. And I dug it out, and it still had some air in the tires, and it was functional, and so I rode it for about 3/4 of a mile before the tires deflated completely, and then I just left the bike sitting on the side of the bike trail for somebody else to pick up. So anyway, after all these long miles of gorgeous scenery, I finally entered the industrial corridor of my youth. The threshold is around St. Rose, it's in St. Charles Parish, and suddenly there are petrochemical refineries and grain elevators surrounding you, and the lights and the humming of the industrial facilities are extremely hypnotic. And I have a good bit of footage of these facilities during the late evening, and I think I'm just gonna conclude this little video short with that footage. Thank you.